Hey guys, it's Kismet. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be part 2 for how I made my Jester Lavorre costume. Let's get right on into it, shall we? So starting off with Jester's shawl. So this time around, instead of making a pattern, I ended up doing some draping. I just took a big old rectangle of fabric. I just kind of threw it around my dress form, pinned it in some places, tried a couple of different folds, and saw what I liked. I tried some stuff on the back, I did some stuff on the shoulders. For the most part, I just wanted to make sure that the front part opened like this, diagonally, not straight down, so that you could actually see the costume underneath. That was the most important to me. So I took my time with this draping, laying it out, marking it, all of that, just to kind of realize that as soon as I transferred over to the actual fabric I was going to use, I was really just gonna re-drape it again because I was making a big square of fabric to drape for this. This was kind of useless, but not entirely, because I did get a good idea of what I wanted to do here. But I did know for a fact that I wanted a folding detail on the shoulders, on the back, and then sort of some pleats in the front. Then I switched over to my actual fabric. I ended up using both a flannel and a fleece. The dark green fleece was going to be on the outside. The flannel, that was the lining of the shawl. I wanted a little more texture on my shawl, so I ended up doing a quilting pattern. I think I originally marked this out to be like 2 inches, and I think it ended up being like 4 inches. I just marked all of my little diamonds on there and top stitched over it. This took forever, but I really like the results. Once I had finished all of my quilting, I took it back to my dress form, did all of that draping again, put all those little pleats in it, pinned it in place, and then I took it to my sewing machine and sewed it all along the top. In a couple of places, I did also tack down some basting just to make sure that the panels would sort of lay flat even after ironing, because it's some thick stuff. So ironing it doesn't really do a whole ton to help hold its shape. The hood I don't have any footage of, but it was essentially the same process of patterning, cutting out my pieces, quilting, and then attaching it to the top. One of the things that I did not get footage of is me attaching the hood to the shawl, but I kind of just, put them right sides together, and then all of the ugly bits that were kind of hanging in the middle, I just cased in some more flannel. Moving on to Jester's horns. What I did is I took some wire, bent it in a sort of spiral fashion, covered it in just scraps of whatever I had, foam scraps and fabric scraps, whatever I could to just sort of fill it out, and then wrapped it in tape. I then cut the tape off of the outside of the shape, and I had a pattern for what that would look like once I put it back together. After that, I took strips of 2mm craft foam, with one side of it being sort of a jagged cut out edge, and then I just wrapped that around the entire horn, starting at the tip, working all the way down to the base. After that, I took my Dremel tool and I dremeled in a ton of texture. This is what really made it come to life. I don't think that it would have looked nearly as good without this step. It really made it look like it was bone, like it was growing from your head. I did a thin layer of Mod Podge to sort of seal it, and then I did a layer of black spray paint. I took some kind of metallic blue paint and I just dry brushed it on top and rubbed it off with my finger. This gave it a really nice sheen so that they still look black, but when they catch the light, you can tell that she is a little blue tiefling and not like a little red tiefling or whatever. Once that was done, I took some of that blue paint along with a kind of a bone color, mixed that together into a lighter shade, and I used that to highlight the edges of the ridges that I had created with that 2mm foam. This creates a ton of dimension and lets it pop really beautifully. Okay, so now we're moving on to all of her accessories. Starting with her tail, this is something that I didn't really get a whole ton of footage of, but I basically just took a foam dowel and I shoved a wire through the center of it all the way up, and then I cut out a bit of a heart shape for the end of her tail and glued that on. I bought some blue stretch fabric that I thought matched her skin tone pretty well and covered the tail in that, as well as putting a little accessory around the end of the cylinder of the tail right before the heart shape. For her her belts I bought some faux leather, and I just sort of distressed them, I guess, with a layer of brown paint, kind of making them not only a darker leather color, but also a little more like used and weathered and worn. All of her other accessories, her little pins, her traveler symbol, those are all made with craft foam covered in Worbla. Oh, and her little horn caps are also just Worbla. I wish I had more footage of me making these things, but at this point I was really just trying to zoom through the costume and get it done, and I either forgot or couldn't be bothered to set up my camera. But that is all for part 2 of making Jester Lavorre. This was a bit quicker of a video than the first part, I admit. I just didn't have as much to talk about and everything was kind of straightforward. But anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope it was a little bit informative, maybe a little bit helpful. If you do have any questions for how I did anything, leave them in the comments down below and I'll try to get back to them. I hope you have a great rest of your day and may the traveler be with you. Bye. May the traveler be with you. I wish I could do accents.